Welcome. This year's Rising marks the 9th anniversary of the launch of
A Realm Reborn.
Yeah, I'm gonna run that into the ground. In Eorzea, it's a time of remembrance in honor of those who fought and died at the Battle of Cartno. The Rising is currently active and will last until the morning of September 12th. To participate in this event, you need to get any class to level 15. You also need access to Ul'dah, so it is recommended that you have completed up through the quest The Call of the Sea in the MSQ. In each of the starter cities are Rising attendants that can tell you about the event. Now in Ul'dah, the Rising vendor is right next to the Rising attendant. She sells the usual fireworks and such that have been available in previous years. And yes, the Nimia Potpourri, which was introduced last year, is back, so I'm guessing it'll be a regular part of the event. Everything sells for 19 gil each, so stock up while you can. The quest begins on the streets of Ul'dah with the Wandering Minstrel. He's been a part of these events for as long as I can remember. He's concerned about a sudden influx of new adventurers after the recent Moonfire Fair. You know, 'cause it's just a shameless plug for the Adventurers Guild. He wants you to go help a new adventurer to get started in the world of fetch quests and dubious dialogue choices. So he sends you to a place by the Gate of Nald in front of the Adventurers Guild to wait for your first a new adventurer to come along. If you started in Ul'dah, this will all be very familiar. Anyway, you meet Nagia Jakia. Why does that name sound familiar? Of course he knows he needs to go to the Adventurers Guild, and, well, you point to the huge building right in front of you, and he runs off. You find him having trouble breathing, working up the courage to talk to Momodi. Don't worry, she's just a Lalafell. They don't bite much. With your help, he gains the courage to talk to her, and Momodi signs him up. Then she mentions he needs to join a guild, so you go outside to discuss it. This scene is unskippable. Oh, but it seems you two have a common friend, or three, and he does mention he has a sister. There are two possible guilds you might send him to. If you send him to the Pugilist Guild, that's just down the road a piece. Now, if you send him to the Alchemist Guild and don't have the Aethernet unlocked yet, the best route is to head down the Ruby Road to the lift and take it to the Hustine Strip. Head down this hallway, make a right, get the crystal, turn right again, then turn right up these stairs. You'll have no choice but to go left, and the Alchemist Guild is at the far end of this hall. Be sure to get the crystal on your way. At either guild, you just need to get close to the area for the scene to play, and it will be slightly different if you have completed the storyline for that guild. When you get back to the minstrel, he decides that you need to buy him, the minstrel, a gift. And not just one, both of you need to. And it has to have something to do with the calamity or something. So he sends you off to meet up with Nagi in the Sapphire Avenue Exchange. Just run east until you change maps. None of the Aethernet crystals are really that convenient. Speaking to him starts the escort mechanic that is so popular nowadays. With him in tow, you have 3 people you need to talk to, and 2 optional locations for some additional dialogue. Each of the 3 tell you about one thing they might sell you: an old ring, the stained glass picture from 2 years ago, and an adventurer's journal. The third person will also mention a scrapbook full of newspaper clippings. After you talk to all 3, the optional spots will disappear and a new location will appear at the end of the road. When you talk to Nagi here, there is another unskippable scene where you choose the item you will buy for the minstrel. When the scene ends, you end up back on Emerald Avenue. You can take a shortcut through the quicksand to find the minstrel near the lift on Ruby Road. You give him your gift and he says something different depending on what you give him. Strangely, if you give him the Adventurer's Journal, he says it has little historical value, which just isn't true. Personal diaries and journals are very important to historians. No account is unbiased, and getting multiple perspectives helps one to understand the temper of the times. Anyway, it's clear he's not too impressed with whatever you bring him, but the old newspapers inspire him to write a song.
I wrote a song about it, like the kid here go.
You see, the newspaper clippings are from The Raven, which is the paper Nagi's sister works for, whoever that is. Well, I guess he was playing too loud because it gave me a headache. One so bad I started hallucinating. And of course, nobody seemed to notice my excruciating pain as usual. You and the minstrel say your goodbyes to Nagi, but apparently the minstrel has another song for you.
I wrote a song about it, like the kid here go.
When you finish the quest, you get some experience, a little gil, a minion, and an achievement. The minion you get is a Clockwork Solus. Yeah, Solus is right. If you are still new, you just need to know he will have a somewhat important role in the main story later. Or was it earlier? Being a Clockwork minion, you will need the Mammoteer title active for him to respond to emotes. Though the only one that seems to work is Hand Over, so you can feed him like a little puppy. You get the Mammoteer title from the Follow the Leader 1 achievement, which is completed by obtaining 30 minions that have the obedient behavior. It's kind of disappointing when dialogue choices have no payoff. There are a few nice changes this year based on a couple of your choices, but many choices lately have had no influence whatsoever. They very rarely affect the story anyway, and they almost never affect the final outcome. Well, except for that one Make It Rain event, but now that's mostly lost to history. There should at least be a reaction. Your character doesn't say anything, so when there is no reaction based on your choice, there is really no point in there even being a choice. It's not like they're doing voiceovers for these events. Just the usual text response is at least something. Anyway, the quest for this year's event obviously references the first couple quests new players do when starting this game. Of course, one major difference is that you don't choose a guild after you start, and you obviously can't start the game as a crafting class. However, that might be a reference to the fact that in 1.0, you could start the game as a crafter or a gatherer. And if you didn't guess, Nagi's sister is none other than Kipi Jakia, who was involved in the Final Fantasy XIII event, the Final Fantasy XV event, as well as last year's Rising. Apparently she's been around since the final days of the original game, when she was a GM-controlled character, and she may have mentioned her little brother at that time. Anyway, thank you for watching. Feel free to like or dislike or comment on this video. Oh, and please subscribe too. Goodbye.